Hello friends, today I am going to narrate you a story, a Punjabi feast. A Punjabi and a Kashmiri were great friends. One year, after he had completed harvesting of his wheat crop, the Punjabi decided to go and stay with his Kashmiri friend for a few days. Now, Kashmiris are among the most hospitable people in India and consider it a privilege to entertain a guest. So, on the day that the Punjabi arrived, the ladies of the house prepared a grand feast in his honor. There was chicken, mutton, and fish prepared in a variety of ways. There were vegetables and pulao, followed by luscious fruit and sweets. "Oh, what a grand feast!" the Punjabi said. When the two friends were seated for their meal, "You should not have taken so much trouble." "No trouble at all," the Kashmiri replied. "You have come to my house after so many years. We must celebrate the occasion." The meal began and the Kashmiri waited expectantly for some appreciative comment from his friend. But the Punjabi said nothing. At the end of the meal, the Kashmiri inquired hesitantly, "I do hope you have liked the food?" "Oh, it was a lavish feast," the Punjabi replied. "But sometime or other, you must come and stay with us and sample our Punjabi food." The Kashmiri was disappointed to hear this and thought that perhaps the food in Punjab was even more lavish. Next day, he asked the ladies and cooks to prepare a meal on a still more elaborate scale. They prepared several types of meat dishes: rogan josh, a spicy meat curry, kebab, gosht taba, a meat dish cooked in curd, tabak mas, mint-flavored meatballs. There were several kinds of vegetables, chicken pulao made from fine basmati rice, followed by fruit and sweets. A thick mat was laid on the floor and covered with a snow-white cloth. On this, the feast was laid out. The ladies stood in the adjacent room, peeping in from behind the curtain, constantly sending in steaming hot food. But again the Punjabi made no comment. At the end, he said, "I was a grand feast indeed, but sometime or other you must taste our Punjabi food." The Kashmiri could hardly believe his ears. If his friend was not satisfied even with this food, what must a Punjabi feast be like? But he was determined not to be outdone. The following day, at considerable expense, he engaged the best cook in the valley, one who had served royalty. The choicest fruit and vegetables were brought straight from farms and arcades, and the best meat and fish from the market. Mealtime came. The white cloth was completely covered by the great wealth of food, and the number of dishes was almost beyond belief. Surely such a grand feast could not be equaled anywhere else in the country. Anxiously, the host waited for his friend's coming. "Oh, what a grand feast!" the friend said in the end. "It would have done honor to a king. But wait till you sample our Punjabi food." The Kashmiri sat back, utterly defeated. For the rest of the stay, his friend was served the best food, but the Kashmiri made no further attempt to compete with Punjabi food. When winter came and the Kashmir valley lay in the grip of snow, the Kashmiri decided to pay a visit to his Punjabi friend. The Punjabi received him with great warmth and pressed him to stay on for as long as he could. All evening, the Kashmiri sat in anticipation of the fabulous Punjabi feast that he was sure of getting. At dinner time, small mats were placed on the floor and the two friends sat down to their meal. A thali containing 2 tandoori rotis and dal flavored with a generous helping of homemade ghee was placed before each of them. The Kashmiri waited expectantly for further items of food, but nothing came. The Punjabi's wife sat before the tandoor, preparing crisp hot rotis for the guests. The Kashmiri was a little disappointed, but in truth, he found the food quite tasty and had a hearty meal. Perhaps, he thought, there had been no time to prepare more, and he waited eagerly for the Punjabi feast on the following day. But the midday meal next day was hardly any different. It consisted of sarson ka saag and makki ki roti, washed down with large quantities of fresh buttermilk. How had his Punjabi friend been bragging about the food in his village? But perhaps the required ingredients were not available in the village, and he might have sent to the city for them. But day after day, the same pattern was repeated, till one day it was time for the Kashmiri to return. As he was leaving, he said, "Dear friend, when you came to my place, I gave you the choicest dishes that Kashmiri has to offer. But each time you said that the food could not compare with the Punjabi food in your village. I have stayed with you a good many days now, but I have seen no sign of a Punjabi feast. How can you say that Punjabi food is better than Kashmiri food?" Putting an arm around his friend's shoulder, the Punjabi said, "My friend, I did not say that Punjabi food was more lavish than Kashmiri food. I only meant it was different. You have tried our food for some days now, and you tell me honestly, don't you feel lighter and more active since you started taking this food?" For a few moments, the Kashmiri was silent. Then he broke into a hearty laugh. "Great, this is great," he roared. "You have certainly made a point there, my friend, but you must remember that winters in Kashmiri are long and harsh, and we must have nourishing fare to see us through the cold months. Besides, I must explain that the food that was served to you was not our everyday Kashmiri fare. It was prepared specially for a dear friend and honored guest." The Punjabi yoked the bullocks to the cart and set out with his friend for the station. The journey was completed in silence, but both the friends were thinking of what the other had said. Thank you, children.